But while the review was being done, things were continuing to deteriorate. Is that?
That's exactly right. That's a fair statement.
As a matter of leadership or command, was looking back on it, was Secretary Gates right to clean house, to fire all those people, or ask those people to resign at the very top?
Only Secretary Gates can answer that. What is clear was that what he did sent a message that reverberated throughout the Pentagon, the services, in terms of his determination to get A, to the bottom of it, but also B, to see what lessons needed to be learned to care for service members. This is the all-volunteer military. This is a nation and a service at war in two theaters. He had to do that. In his view, I'm certain, and it certainly did send a strong message.
But based on your independent investigation, you agree with what he did. In other words, that those at the top had heads needed to roll. It was that serious a thing.
Frankly, I have to say to you that both for me and for the rest of the IRG, we did not look at it. We have no opinion on it, other than that what he did do sent a strong message.
Now, you said get to the bottom of it. Are you satisfied now that the bottom has now been gotten to?
Oh, yes. There are no secrets. This has been a relatively transparent set of circumstances from the outset. It was not that hard to determine what was going wrong. First of all, remember the distinction that was made in the clip you just showed.
Sure.
And that is that the concerns were not with the clinical work being done by the talented doctors and nurses at either Walter Reed or Bethesda Naval or at any of our other medical centers. That work that's done as soon as they get off that plane and are rushed into surgery, where the real expertise and
this is inpatient people are in the hospital.
That's fine. And indeed, even when you speak of outpatient, you have to draw a distinction between outpatients as we normally think of them.
So what do you mean?
People who live in their own homes and then go to the hospital for treatment. These are outpatients whose care was so sensitive, they were kept on the grounds at Walter Reed, or in the case of Building 18, just across the street. Those are the outpatients we're talking about, the population that still needed follow-up there at Walter Reed, but could, and for that reason, could not be sent too far away from the post. That is where the issues have arisen.
Have you looked at the simple question as to why it took two reporters from the Washington Post to find out about this and make this public?
Well, we didn't look into the question, but I do think that it's impossible to have walked around up there as much as we did, to have talked to as many people as we did and not have it to be fairly clear. And it's no surprise, Jim. The fact is that the military, the Army, are a closed society. They are proud of what they do, and they keep their secrets and, what shall we call it, their dirty linen, to themselves. Soldiers, even wounded soldiers at the worst time of their lives, and families don't like to complain. And so it takes someone to come and ask, how are you doing? What's happening here? Before all that pent-up anguish, and most of all, uncertainty, begins to gush out.
And some of these physical things that were happening in some of these buildings that were allowed to deteriorate, somebody must have seen those too, shouldn't they?
Well, we have a strong piece section in our report that talks about both leadership and facilities. And the language, I can quote it, is pretty stark. Leadership should have known. Leadership probably knew that Building 18 was in the condition it was. How could they not? It is the job of leaders to know. If they have to walk around, they should walk around. But they have reports, and they get to read the reports. There are those who say, this is the way the Army has been accustomed to living. You can go to any post in the world and find some barracks that are occupied by service members and say, how can this be so? As the Army tries to juggle its accounts and fund operations. But the fact is, it's not the way you expect our wounded and most vulnerable soldiers to live and to have their families find them.
Well, you have a lot of experience here. I mean, you were a soldier yourself, and you were wounded, and you were later the Secretary of the Army and Secretary of Veterans Affairs. One of the big complaints, too, was there was very little coordination, all kinds of bureaucratic problems between what was going on at the Department of Defense, through the Army Medical Service, and the Veterans Affairs Department. Have those been fixed?
First, in fairness to those who have served in combat and who were wounded, I was not one of those. I did serve on active duty for 4 years, and I had the experience you said. And in terms of the cooperation between the two. They certainly cooperate, but the seamless handoff that we would like to see for a wounded service member who has been determined not to be able to return to service and must then move into civilian life and become the responsibility of the Department of Veterans Affairs is not yet as seamless as we would like, and indeed is a large part of the concern of service members that we looked into.
What do you think of Secretary Gates' idea of having this group meet once a week to go over this? Is that the proper response? Is that going to get the job done?
We look at it in the IRG as if it was
IOG.
IRG, the Independent Review Group, as if it is the immediate response to the very last recommendation we put in there. The question is, what's going to happen to this report? Is it going to become yet another dust-laden and cyclical on a shelf? And so we had said, appoint somebody whose job is to review what's happening and compare what's happening against what we've recommended. He's done that, so we think it's a great idea.
Okay. Secretary West, thank you very much.
Thank you.